Welcome to the overview tutorial for Programming 101. This is the display presented upon entering the URL. The goal of this learning tool is to help students learn the basics of computer programming. A common approach in teaching computer programming is to introduce the features and functions and related groupings and to provide simple examples of how they are used. With Programming 101, we have opted to start with a sample application and demonstrate how the computer languages are employed to create it. We will now log in, which identifies the student to match them with their body of work. To accomplish this, we select the welcome bar, which produces a utility display where we enter the student ID. In the main menu, the introduction presents what we just discussed in point form with an option to display a more comprehensive narrative. The introduction also includes an overview of the languages and other development tools employed. The sample programs that are used involve the creation of basic interactive math quizzes. The development of sample programs employ two computer languages commonly used in the development of browser-based applications, HTML and JavaScript. We're also attempting to provide a framework within which the student can relate to the development process that typically exists in the world of application creation. An important goal of our approach is to encourage the student to attempt to periodically adopt the perspective of the potential user of the application to help ensure the relevance of the effort. Selecting Programming Cycle from the main menu provides an explanation of that process of translation of a set of requirement specifications expressed by a requester in a human understandable language, such as English, into a language that a computer can understand and execute to achieve desired results. This is also expressed in concise point form, but the student may also select a more comprehensive narrative explanation. The Program Components item in the main menu provides an explanation of the components that comprise a typical application program. Again, this is presented in concise point form with the option to read a more comprehensive narrative version. P101 employs a structured approach where like components are grouped together and are arranged in a familiar order within the program. Upon selection of the sample math quiz programs, a sub-menu is presented with a list of 3 sample math quiz programs. Upon selection of the addition program, a sub-menu is presented. Selecting sample program displays the working result of the addition sample program. This allows experimentation to see what the addition program can do. Let's just click select new question and work through one. As you can see, it presents addition questions, and if we answer correctly, we get a little prompt. Let's try another one and just answer incorrectly to see what happens. It also prompts us, except with a different message. The next 3 items of the menu provide for display of key development documents that may be reviewed and checked by experimenting with the sample program. We have the requirement specifications. It lists what the ad should do. Components on the actual page, so how it will look, the design of it, with a little wireframe here that gives us the layout of the tool, and the activity flow, which describes the flow of the program, how it should work when the user interacts with it. With this approach, the student can readily relate the requirement specifications, components on the page, and the activity flow to the actual working application. Upon selecting Create/Update the program, the student is presented with the capability to select an existing program or create a new one. We will select a program that has been partially completed and is presented in the coding area in the middle panel. The first 2 items in the coding area menu provide background documents on the development approach and the typical programming structure employed, along with a wireframe displaying the layout of the addition program and flowcharts included within the descriptions laying out the logic behind the functions within the addition quiz program. They are presented in point form with the option to read a more comprehensive narrative version. HTML is a markup language, the facilities of which tend to line up with generating and displaying the components or objects on the page. JavaScript is a procedural language, which is well suited to dealing with the activity flow requirements of the program. Hence, in the process of creating the program, we tend to focus first on the things involving HTML, then deal with the activity flow, which is more effectively handled by JavaScript. Upon selecting HTML in the coding area menu, a submenu is displayed that corresponds to the sections of HTML code that address specific requirements of the program. With each succeeding menu item, the explanation of the code and other instructions are displayed above the cumulative code of the program, where the code added in the menu is highlighted in red. The code is referenced in the description through the use of code buttons that highlight the added code. As you can see, when we click the button, the code is highlighted in the box below. The student either manually codes and the updates or copies and moves them to the coding area. Upon completion of each menu item of coding, the Save Changes button may be selected, followed by the selection of the Interpret Code button, which will display the results of the program that point to that point. With the Mobi1 program in our display, coding has been completed to the end of the text area menu item. This is the result of interpreting the unfinished program. To further illustrate this process, we will update the coding area code with the code specified in the object positioning menu item. There are 3 sections of code that must be copied from the right panel into the coding area. We can either type them in manually, copy and paste them individually and place them in their corresponding sections, or copy and paste the entire document. Upon completion and selecting Save Changes and then Interpret Code, we achieve the following result. Voila! HTML has been used to format the desired display. Notice that nothing happens as we click the Select a New Question button. Now we must select the JavaScript submenu to generate the code updates for the program that will enable activity flow by following the instructions and updating the JavaScript code from each successive menu item in the JavaScript submenu. In the Check Answer function submenu, we have utilized a flowchart to help explain the code. The final result of the code should be equivalent to the result when selecting Sample Program. The result is a working addition quiz application. Another even more important result is a student who has learned a lot about how to use HTML and JavaScript to build browser-based interactive applications. The subtraction and multiplication sample programs employ the same approach to teach further features of HTML and JavaScript, which will result in ever more successful applications. Along with demonstrating the working sample program, there are several other features that support the student's efforts to create the program. An on-screen toolbox, which includes searchable glossaries for HTML and JavaScript, and a third that contains program coding tips. Probably most important is the Q&A feature that provides for interactive communication with the teacher, where the teacher is provided with a copy of the student's current code for the program to allow for hands-on evaluation and feedback. Upon completion of the math quiz sample programs, the student may proceed to the web-based business application described in this document. The application requires server-based programming, which includes the introduction of another language, PHP, and is explained in the application program structure document. Server-based programming introduces a range of issues that present more complex challenges that are illustrated in our treatment of the development of an internet-based storefront application, which will be provided in another video. This concludes the overview of Programming 101.